Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about Anki Deck through the lens of social studies. I had a little bit of difficulty determining what kind of technology I wanted to use for this project because I wasn't aware of a lot of technologies that historians and social studies teachers use. But I remembered a application that I used back in college that proved to be very useful, that is very student-oriented, and we'll be talking about that today. So what is Anki Deck? Anki is a very useful flashcard deck building application that you can use either on a phone, on their application on the phone, or on a computer. It allows you to download decks made by other people, or you can create your own. And the one thing that makes the application unique in regards to flashcards is a technique known as spaced repetition. This helps you better control what you know and what you don't know. The program is pretty straightforward. Once you download a deck or make your own and you boot it, it shows you the front of the card, and once you think of the answer, you reveal the back, and the program asks you on a scale of how difficult the question was, because you can see down there if the question is really hard, you say again, and that means that it shows you again in less than a minute, which means that the card will show up again. Hard, so it'll be within 6 minutes. Good, within 10 minutes. Or easy, and it won't show you that card for 4 days. And every single time you go over a card, depending on your answer, if the card is continuously easy, the time at which that you see that card ever expands. So it goes from 4 days to like 7 days to 10 days, all the way up to a month, but the other answers will not scale as hardly. This is a screenshot of the history category of pre-made decks on the Anki website. As you can see, there are a lot of decks to choose from. Now let's get into some of the problems of the application, because it has its fair share. One problem being there is a massive burden of choice when it comes to selecting a deck to use. As you can see from the screenshot that we just looked at on the previous slide, there are a massive amount of pre-made banks that are available to download, and all of these decks are scattered over a bunch of different historical topics. The screenshot doesn't capture the scroll bar on the web page, but for comparison, the cursor and the bar were about the same size. There are, however, a couple of decks sprinkled in that are not in English. You can see at the bottom. That removes some of the choice from the page, but depending on the topic you need, there is a chance that you may not even find a deck. Here's the biggest problem with Anki overall. These pre-made decks are severely populated. As you can see by the screenshot below, notes is another word for cards, and one entry has 1,481 cards in the deck. If you were to download that deck, cultivating it and finding it useful and making it useful for yourself could use way too much time, and no one is realistically going to surf through 1,000+ cards for any subject, be it AP, US history, or anything else. And one other crutch is Anki doesn't make purging a deck easy at all, because you're not entirely sure what's on any card until you really look at it. So you have to look at the card, determine whether or not you like it, get rid of it. And that can make pruning a deck the equivalent to cutting your lawn with tweezers. Here are a couple of personal grudges that I have with the program, because I've had a lot of experience with it. I've gone back to it multiple times. There is a big problem with poor formatting of some of these pre-made card decks. A deck's contents are entirely decided by the one person that makes it, so that means that some of the information that is presented in the deck can be very confusing. And while some decks offer a great selection of cards, the formatting of the cards can also make them hard to read. And here's one big problem that I absolutely hate about Anki. The mobile app is not great, and it's $10 on the Apple Store at least. Whereas the computer version is absolutely free. This $10 fee can easily make this application unaffordable for a lot of students. A lot of students may not have a computer or a laptop at home, but they do have a phone, and they can't use the app because there's a $9.99 fee that you have to pay just to use it. It's a one-time fee, but it's really steep, and it's just not worth it. For the mobile app, there are an abundance of options and tools you can use to mess with the deck, but none of the tools are it's not clear what their use is, and so it can be a pretty high learning curve, and it can be pretty intimidating. That means that basically a student may try to fix up a deck or download a deck and try to edit it in some way or fashion and just give up because the amount of things that you can do is just ridiculous. As previously mentioned, the overpopulation in these decks make it so hard to make a pre-made deck useful for you. I personally have given up using other people's decks entirely. Here is a screenshot of some of the mobile options, or the options on the mobile app that you can do with the deck. Feel free to guess what some of these mean. And here are some of the praises that I have for the app, because it's not bad, it's just kind of complicated and it's got its problems. The program is incredibly versatile. It's incredibly powerful, and it is a great tool for students. The spaced repetition aspect of the program puts cards you find easy at the bottom of the deck and just forgets about them, but harder cards are put in front of you, and they're put in front of you more often, meaning that you're seeing the card more, and that means that you're putting it in your brain more often. If one has the time to figure out how to do so, you can also add audio or images. You might even be able to add some video. I'm not entirely sure what the capabilities are for that. And these additions could make great pneumatic devices to make learning the materials easier for you. And the program is entirely open source, which means that all aspects of the program are in control of the user. That's why it has so many options, so that you can really fine-tune the deck in whatever way that you see possible. It's just that the amount of options is incredibly daunting. The program is, relatively speaking, easy to use. Creating a bare-bones deck, meaning question on front, answer on back, is incredibly easy to do. Another thing, downloading, importing, and exporting decks is incredibly simple. You simply download the file and just run it into the program. And if you have the mobile app, you can easily export a deck that you've made on your PC and import it to your mobile app so you can take it with you. You can also add certain tags to your cards so that it organizes them by topic. And here are a couple of personal recommendations that I have with the app if anyone wants to use it, or, the software. Don't touch the mobile version if it's possible. Use the web version because the mobile app is too expensive for what it is, and what it is an exact copy of free software. Which is unfortunate because it would be convenient to be able to pull up your study deck whenever you're not doing anything and you have your phone. Make your own decks. This way, you can ultimately decide what's relevant to you personally, and you can write the cards in a way that you will understand. And lastly, don't rely entirely on pre-made decks. You might find yourself wading through card after card of useless trivia, and you're just getting bored, and you don't find anything useful. But in conclusion, the app is incredibly useful. And for social studies and history, it can be an incredibly powerful tool because one of the biggest problems that everyone has with history is remembering events, dates, names, stuff like that. And this application just makes it incredibly easy, and the technology and the techniques behind how it shows you cards really maximizes your knowledge and makes things that you have difficulty understanding a lot easier. and that is Anki Decks.